How do you respond when the stakes are high, but human lives aren't in the balance of a decision being made? I'll tell you, when the stakes are high, and by high, I mean there's a potential reputational loss or a financial loss by making the wrong choice or by making a choice and having to do a quick pivot in a different direction. Those matter just as much as, life altering or, worse, um, you know, decisions that cause people to no longer be alive. I don't take any of these actions as a leader lightly, whether it be a direct human impact or whether it be a monetary impact or a reputational impact. Whenever I choose and advocate a particular direction, I'm keenly aware of counting the costs before getting to that point. And this for me it's a really tough spot to be in. In fact, one of the things that I've learned during my time supporting special operations forces was oftentimes a decision has to be made with only 70 to 80% of the information. I do like the way that the Army frames things, and the way that we would do our daily briefs going into a mission was most likely, least likely, and most dangerous course of action, which laid out the expectation of where a particular mission might go. On the upside, hey, we do our job and everybody gets back. On the downside, then, catastrophic things potentially occur. Now, in business, the stakes may not be as high. And I'm saying may not be as high from the standpoint of, reputational damage can bring down a company. And there are enough examples of poor decision making that, any person can point to. And I'll just highlight Enron, for example, a total collapse of a multi-billion-dollar company because of financial malfeasance and basically running an elaborate shell game. I would dare say potentially even a Ponzi scheme as far as energy trading is concerned. People went to jail for that. And if that's the worst that comes of making a decision, then I would say that, as an individual who's looked at far worse, then, hey, congratulate yourself. And I'm not saying that to be sarcastic. I'm just saying that because when human lives are in the balance, the calculus is similar, but it's different. So getting back to this whole 70 to 80% equation of information, I have pushed and I will continue to push for things that unlock value, significant value, business value. It's a calculated risk. It's a gamble. I sit back and I'll advocate for us to release a piece of functionality, knowing full well that the upside far outweighs the downside when we get things into the hands of the people who actually will use them. I have the numbers to validate that. I touted in my resume the tens of millions of dollars that I have helped companies either realize because the right tools were in place, or, avoid losing, which is it's a positive on a balance sheet. I look at those numbers because, well, I might be the one who's strongly pushing for it as a team leader. I know I'm not alone in my compelling argument with the facts to back it up, even if they're only 70% of what we need. Generally rule the day, because most of the things, especially in software product development that we put out, we can back out fairly quickly if we learn that they don't do what they're supposed to do, or worse, they break something. Yeah, push to prod. Everything's going to be, prod is down. Prod is down. I've been on the cleanup for those kinds of conversations as well. The hysterics aside and the risk aside, as a leader, it is my strong opinion That is very loosely held. And so if somebody can give me better factual basis to sway my opinion, I'm always welcome to that feedback. That sometimes you just have to take action, even with imperfect information. And when you do take action, be prepared to pivot rapidly when better information becomes available. Take action with imperfect information. Prepare to pivot when better information becomes available. That is the life lesson learned for this particular episode of Tim Unscripted.